Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. I'm your host, Maria Angelova, creator of the Angelova Method, an integrative approach to mind and body connection. The Angelova Method redefines your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind. Hi, Rebels. Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. It is my absolute pleasure today to welcome with us Dr. Van, who is a concierge internal medicine physician. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Van at a medical conference, and I absolutely love what she's doing. I have to say, with her personal life and her patients. I think it's a win-win, and I'm so excited to see more of these physicians really claiming their life and offering better services to their patients. So welcome, Dr. Van.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Yes, I am so excited to dive into the conversation, but let's get to know you. You're a physician, but let's get to know you as a person. So who is Dr. Van? Give us 3 words that describe you and give us a little bit of a backstory behind each word.
Oh, backstory. Okay. Well, I am, well, first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm the youngest of seven of a Vietnamese family that immigrated to Illinois when I was about 6. So I grew up in the city of Chicago, and being the youngest, we really, put a lot of pressure on going to school and doing everything to follow the footsteps of my brothers and sisters ahead of me. So I really just had a path laid ahead for me. And a lot of that was academics. A lot of it was just, put your head down or keep your head down and just be good at school and be successful. And that's success that my parents wanted for me. And not that I didn't have any other good options. I really just didn't have a direction for myself. And so I thought, medicine sounded really good, and so I went with it, and it was pretty smooth sailing throughout my life, actually. So I enjoyed it. It was not only much later that I realized why it is that I like medicine so much, or why it's my path. And so I find that as I grew older and as I learned from my patients, it became a real path for me, a real journey as to who I am. And so who am I? The words that would describe me would probably be compassionate. Let's see, helpful. I think is a as part of the compassion is that I see a need, and then I want to respond and address it. So that's where I find that medicine has been so helpful. And I think what else about me would be very determined, I guess, very determined to see things through,
I can so very much relate to your story in regards to expectations and family. You know a little bit about my story. I also come from a family of academia, and I'm the older one, but I also grew up with those expectations to do well academically, to go to school, to get a good job, and all of that. Which is why I went into finance, because it is a well-respected career path. And I'm curious to know, in your case, I mean, you're obviously still into the area that you studied, you're still into medicine. How has your view of medicine changed as you have evolved as a human being yourself and as a physician? How have your priorities as a physician changed?
I think in the past, I just feel that medicine has been, or my role has been to help people, has been to help heal. I guess that's what a physician does. But I find that my view now is that it's a connection. It is such more of a connection of a heart. I find that, and it's wonderful for me to have that ability to be with somebody in that private setting where they're vulnerable, in so many ways. They're vulnerable. You're physically vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable, and they're here with me. And so it's just a blessing for me. And so I find that that is I want more of that. And actually, I think that's why I enjoy it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. I can very much relate to that because I've actually had a conversation on this topic with a colleague, and she said, I don't have any relationships with my clients in our case, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine running a business and doing what I do without having that real connection with my clients. I mean, I see them so
Mhm.
frequently. We get to interact, they get to be vulnerable. I get to help them with their physical stuff, with the mental stuff. There is so much sharing, there is so much openness.
Yeah.
And I love that because, especially, I think nowadays, our society has become a little bit superficial. There is no as much depth, and I thrive on those relationships and, knowing
Mhm.
my clients, knowing about their families, about their kids, like what's happening into their lives. I personally very much enjoy that. And even with my colleagues, I try to have relationships with them, not just like, hey, I need this, hey, I need that, but like, how are you doing?
Mhm.
How's your family? How's your business? What's going on? What's new?
Mhm.
I think that's very important. And honestly, I think the more isolated we're becoming as a society, the more people are seeking that.
Hmm. Yeah, I find that medicine has changed so much in the sense that, the internet has allowed patients to learn about things already on their own. So they really don't need me for certain information. I mean, that's out there, right? They can Google it, they can figure it out. But
There's the reason you went to school, but okay.
right,
Yes.
right, right. But that's what they think. And that it breaks down that trust anymore because in the past they don't understand, they're afraid, they whatever, they come to and then they really have that discussion. Now they already have a lot of that information. So they don't really trust the physicians as much, the information that they're getting. And so, but that's because the system has made it so that we don't have time for them. And so, why are they going to trust me if I only have 5 minutes to tell them my opinion? I didn't barely hear their situation, and here I am writing a prescription. They're not going to trust that. And so, I think medicine has changed because of that very fact is they have things already in their mind. They have questions that they've read about. They want to talk about it. And on our end, we don't have time or we don't have the inclination to honor that, that discussion, that curiosity of theirs. So then we decide, so then they decide, well, they'll shop around and find some other source. So that's where I find that medicine has changed a lot. And so I wanted to bring that back to, having a more intimate relationship, intimate discussion with patients.
And how has the concierge model worked for you and for your practice and for your patients and for you personally?
Yeah, the concierge to me really just means really intentional attention to my patient. So intentional, like, I think if my patients have been so used to me through the years being their doctor the way that I am, you don't change yourself, right? So I practice medicine the way I've always done it. So I've always given them time, I've always listened, I've always given them, the respect. But now I have the time and the intention to say, hey, let's take a look at this problem today, and we'll talk about this other problem tomorrow or on the phone or something instead of like brushing it off and trying to. So I find that it's wonderful. Patients love it. They don't feel rushed, and they don't, and they're not demanding. Whereas before, because they only get 15 minutes of my time, they're very demanding. They want this and this and this and this. But now they just said,
I
hey,
have
relax.
more of your time. And
Yeah, relax. Yeah, yeah. And it's just a good feeling for them. I'm sure for them, they don't feel rushed. I mean, they don't feel like they need to, they don't feel stressed. And that's just a good way to live, in any situation. Yeah.
love that you use the word intention. It's one of my favorite words. And even the movement that I do, I call it, that I teach, I call it intentional movement because
Hmm.
I think kind of to what you talked about before, people can go online and see an exercise, or they go to YouTube and they look at an exercise problem, they're repeating. There
Yeah,
is a reason some of us study movement, right? Because it's not as take the dumbbell and shove it up and down, right? There is biomechanics of
exactly.
how you move. There is ways to protect your body. And
Hmm.
sometimes people are like, well, I saw it on YouTube, and it's like, okay, like, let's talk about that, right? Let's explain that. And
Yes.
the other thing is intention about being focused on the person. So while I'm teaching a client, I'm not on my phone scrolling the internet or catching up on
Hmm.
text messages.
Hmm.
I'm fully focused on that person and their problems and their body. And I'm
Hmm.
problem solving as we're going, because today maybe the neck is tight, tomorrow maybe the back is tight.
Right.
Next day they come, they slept crooked and their shoulder is up. We
Hmm.
address the things on point. And today I was talking to one of my clients. He said, man, every time I leave here, he's like, I feel better than when I walked in. And that makes me so happy, because
Hmm.
that's what the intent is, right? To help them feel better, to help
Yeah.
them feel tolerant, stretched, and so forth. So I
Hmm.
love that you're bringing intention. One, as a physician, you're intentional about how you're helping them. And then also being intentional and being present in their time with you, versus being rushed through the questions that they have to ask, because they know they only have you for so many minutes or so
Right.
few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the proactive, I'm very proactive. That's another word, I guess, that can describe me, is I'm very proactive in their care. I look down the road a little bit and say, hey, maybe this is what we should be looking at. And so they really appreciate that. And now I have the time and the opportunity to look at their chart, to look at all the things that they've had done. And then I can just say, hey, come on in, instead of waiting, like the current healthcare is sick care, right? Meaning you sick, you're come in. Whereas now I'll say, no, let's not wait till you're sick. Let's come in now. We can talk about goals. We can talk about what your purpose is, what your, things like things that they don't ever really think about, that they want to talk to their doctor about. But now they have it, because I'm very holistic that way. Yeah.
Actually, that's one reason that I love the first time we met. I was like, oh my gosh, they're doctors who look at the person as a whole, right? Not just what medicine you can take, but I really love that you're talking about proactive, because, like you said, healthcare nowadays is reactive. It's managing chronic condition and pain. What can you do before the condition develops, when you kind of start seeing the warning signs, or even
Mhm.
developing those lifestyle habits? I know you're very much into lifestyle habits. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the importance of those habits from where you sit as a physician, in how one addresses their health proactively versus reactively.
Hmm. Oh, reactively, you see that all the time, right? Um, it's such a big difference when I ask patients to do things proactively. They don't see the benefit, and nor do they want to spend the time, but it pays off. It really, really pays off. So, and I think part of the concierge part that I have is my approach is a little different, is I want to partner with the patient. I mean, I tell them as part of my vision statement is I want to partner with you for to achieve wellness, the body, the mind, the spirit. But that partnering is both ways, meaning they gain and I gain, meaning they need to meaning they're going to help me grow. They're going to help fuel
Yeah.
physical, And so I say, look, if you struggle with yoga class, I'll go with you. Let's sign up together and we'll go. And then, one or two classes, and then they can go on their own, but I'll go with you. Or if there's a workshop about sugar detox, for instance, and there's having struggle with their diet, I'll go sit with you in that workshop, because I can learn too, as as together we can do things together. And so that's the benefit of this concierge model that I've seen, is that we can do proactive things together. And it's not me just writing a prescription saying cut down your sugar or go to the gym. I want to go with you now that I have time.
And you know what? I will tell you, I think that this miracle for developing relationships and developing a community, right? Because you probably have two or three people who want to try yoga or want to go to that sugar detox class. And I will tell you, with a few ladies from my tribe, we did like I don't know what it was called, but like healthy eating type of course. And it was, I think, 4 weeks or 5 weeks. And we had monthly meetings where we were educated about nutrition and we did it together. And it
Yes.
was fun because we could ask, so how are you doing? What happened? How did you do with the sugar? Did you have a drink?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it makes it more fun because as humans, we all have our opportunities to grow. And
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
last week a client told me, she said, you know what I really appreciate about you, Maria? She's like, even though we put you on a pedestal as like our teacher,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I'm always surprised how vulnerable you are when you share with us your story and things that are happening in your life. And you
Yeah.
don't just say, and I'm up here and everything is great and peachy.
Yeah.
You share with us like the daily things that are okay. I had too much chocolate. I had too much ice cream. This is what I'm dealing in my relationship, maybe with my
Right.
husband. There
Mm-hmm.
is that openness that people can relate to and say, like, oh, wow, like she's human too. She's dealing with the same things that I am. And I think
Exactly.
that vulnerability just deepens the relationships.
Yeah, it makes them feel, it makes everybody feel like nobody's out there
Yeah.
upping anybody else. We are all in this doing our best. We are just doing our best, you know?
Yeah,
So,
we're just doing our best. And there we can learn from each other and
mhm,
grow from each other. And
absolutely.
what has the concierge model done for you personally? So you're also human. I mean, you're a doctor
Yeah.
and we look at you as
Uh-huh.
a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why do you think a few physicians are now taking the choice and going the concierge model from the traditional model?
Well, the very first thing that this has done for me is really just given me back a sense that I have control, that I stepped away from a practice that was big and thriving. Um, but I just felt that it was not right for me. And in order to say, I'm not going to do this anymore, it took a lot, of, would I say courage?
Yes.
And yeah, and it just took a lot, but it helped me feel like I am growing as a person because I wouldn't have done that before. And I was telling one of my close friends that they were, you know, um, asking me like when are you launching and how does it feel, and I said regardless of how it goes, I've already won because I've taken that step and I'm better for it. So as a person, I think that's number one for me. And then any other benefit, extra time for myself, extra time to read, extra time to meditate, which is what I do often, is bonus, but I'm
That
just
is it's so
learning.
necessary.
Yeah, it's so important. But just that very fact that I feel like I'm my own person again is allowed me, um, I guess, just to feel blessed that this was an opportunity for me. And again, like you said, a lot of doctors may want to do it, but may not want to take that step for various reasons. And it's not for everybody because everybody's in a different season in their life or a season in their marriage and in their child rearing. They can't just drop everything and go. But I think many times when you have the opportunity and you know that you're not on the right path for yourself, then I think it just has to be, you just have to make that. Otherwise, you just feel like you're not fulfilled. You just don't fulfill if you don't feel fulfilled, you know?
How would you say can you feel a difference in terms of how you serve your patients, how your things are changing within your relationships and family now that you have more time for yourself
Mm.
or your self-care?
Oh, I'm much more generous with my time. I'm much more generous. I mean, there are people that are not my patients, but let's say they were my patients but no longer here. If they stop in to say hi, I'll drop things and say hi to them and talk to them and just catch up with their life. It's not about, whether I can bill for this 15 minutes or not. I just want to know how they're doing and they're like my friends now. And so I'm just more generous with time because I don't have to hustle for that for things anymore.
Yeah. Would you
Um
say more
so
patient? It sounds like more
what was
patient.
that?
Perhaps more patient sounds like it.
Oh yeah, I would say patience. Perhaps I think I've always been a pretty patient person, pretty calm, pretty not so reactive. But I'm just I'm just able to do more without feeling resentful. How's that?
That's
Sometimes,
powerful. That is very
yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
Because
hmm
if you think of being resentful and carrying that energy of resentment, that is not good energy to
yeah,
carry around.
hmm
How do you serve somebody when you're coming from a place of resentment? It's a very
yeah,
different energy, right?
yeah, yeah, hmm
So grounded and calm. Yeah, it's a very
yeah,
big, yeah.
yeah.
Very,
And and the other very big surprise for me is the reception from my colleagues who are not stepping out to do it, but they just are supportive. They're like, "Good for you. I hope things work out." And and just have all the blessings from them. So I feel very fortunate in that regards.
yeah, that's great. It's a great feeling when you have a community that cheers you up and celebrates your courage because it is
Mhm.
great, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit, especially women. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we could do and the value that we bring. Um, I did not realize the value that I had in some people's lives, or the impact that I had in people's lives. I just give you a quick example. I had a woman who had moved out of the area probably about a year and a half ago, but she heard that I was switching because the letter went out to her also because she was in the mailing list. So she sent me a mailer. I mean, through the mail, she sent me a art that she painted for me. And she said, this wonderful thank you, indicating that she heard about it, about my transition. She's so proud of me. She really wishes that she could be part of this, but she wanted to gift me this painting that she had painted. And I thought, wow, how wonderful to be held in such esteem, It was just, and she had already moved away, so she had no need to
Do anything.
contact me again. But yeah, it was just a wonderful feeling. And so for the fact that I know that I've impacted people in whatever way it has been, it's a good feeling, So I love it. And I love the fact that if I can do more of that on this scale, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah. What is the one advice that you have for us, whether for other physicians or for people who are listening? What's one piece of advice or a favorite quote that you want to share?
Oh my goodness. Well, the advice I think is to really value ourselves and to value, because what I find is a lot of people, when they ask about, my transition and then the cost of it, the red flags go up and they say, "Oh no, that's expensive." And I realize that they don't really value, like if they really valued their health and themselves, they would not think that that was anything because many people don't give themselves permission to spend money on themselves. And so I think to value themselves, to respect themselves, their body, is one thing, And then the one uh, quote I guess I love is Maya Angelou, where she says, I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better.
Yeah, that's for all of us, right? As we
Yeah,
grow,
yeah.
we get to
hmm
experience life differently from a different perspectives. And I do mindset work with people, and sometimes people really start beating on themselves, or even for body stuff, right? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was sitting like that, and that's what caused the back pain, or whatever it is.
hmm
It's like, well, you know what? You didn't know any better. You did
Yep.
the best that you can in light of what you knew at that point of time, and now that you know
hmm
better,
Yeah,
give
you
yourself
did that.
grace and let's
hmm
move forward with the new knowledge and make the best out of it. Going back into the past and regret,
Yeah.
resentments,
hmm
that does not serve any of us well. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So I just feel like I practiced medicine the way I knew how, and that was a system that worked for me then. But now that I know better and I can do better, I will. And I do it, with confidence, without any regrets, without any feeling guilty, And I think I live by that. The fact that, as I learn, I change.
Yeah. And
And I
that's
learn from my patients. Yeah, absolutely. I learn from my patients.
Oh, I would say that I learned the most from my clients, and I always tell them
Mm-hmm.
they're my best teachers because I learned
Yes.
through their bodies, through their experiences, through what they're going through, and
Mm-hmm.
things just start clicking together. And I also really like the point that you brought up about investing into ourselves because, for the most part, most of us are not taught to prioritize our body, mind, or our spirit and
Mm-hmm.
invest into that first. It's like everything else, the material things, and then maybe myself.
Yeah.
And I sadly see it all the time where people are like, yeah, but you know what? And I have people who come years later and they're like, I wish I started earlier because now they're dealing with something big and now they
Mm-hmm.
think it's something, which is
Right.
once again a very reactive approach
Right.
to wellness. And it takes more time, there are more limitations, and it's more
Mm-hmm.
expensive. So long term, it really becomes a heftier investment once we're not proactive, but we're reactive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm very motivating, I guess, in that sense. I try to give patients the most options available. And then I just encourage, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, ultimately, it's a choice. It's a personal choice. You cannot make an adult make it do anything that
Right.
they don't want to do, right? You can only offer them choices, and then it's up to them,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
choice that they make. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Van, what is your definition of rebellious?
Oh my goodness, rebellious is to go against the the status quo. I guess whatever is expected right now, I'm gonna push against it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I
For
like
the
that.
good. Yeah.
Break through the status quo.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Dr. Van, where can people find you? Give us like a website. You do you work with patients remotely?
Remotely, well, I'm only licensed in Indiana, so I only see patients in Indiana. Now I do website or televisits for patients who have seen me, but let's say they travel to Florida or Georgia and they spend half the year there, they can still see me because of I've seen them during the year. But yeah, so my website or my practice name is called True North Concierge Medicine. And True North is, you know, our internal compass, our moral compass, and wherever that leads us, I try to nudge the patient towards that, you know?
Yeah, I really love that your approach to medicine and seeing the body and the mind and the human more than just prescriptions and
More
disease.
than their illness. I mean, honestly, some patients, especially my older patients, they just feel like they're not seen anymore because they're not vital. They're not, you know, they don't have those big ideas, those powerful meetings to lead anymore. And so all they have is their illness. Really, when they come to see me, that's all they really, you know, when you see patients, that's all they talk about. But I honor them in letting them speak about their experience, that their experience of their illness is important. So that's how where I give them that space.
Yeah, and I because I do have some elderly patients, encourage them to move and to socialize and to do things
Yeah.
that nurture them in a different way, right? Because maybe they own the business and now they're retired, and before they were the
Uh-huh.
big boss making decisions, and now they're like, I've got nothing else to do. And like you said, they feel empty and they feel
Uh-huh.
diminished. And I think just nurturing them and reminding them, oh my gosh, you've had such an amazing life. Like, what's next? What are you going to do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when they start feeling physically better into their body and they're able, because sometimes they come in pain, this hurts, that hurts, my arthritis, that demotivates them to want to get out and socialize and do things. But once you start giving them, like one client, her chiropractor told her she's youthing because she started building muscles and she started getting mobile and she could go to the store, little things that you
Mm-hmm.
don't think are a big deal, but they do affect you mentally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very important to also nurture them and
Yeah.
just talk to them like they're still human.
Yeah. Oh, for
Oh,
sure. I think that what makes a person the happiest is to feel useful and and I tell them all the time that they're being useful to me in telling me how their illness is affecting them because then I can help other people with the same issues. And they tell me, they go on and tell me how it works and how it doesn't work. And I use that information to help other people. So, and they love it. Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Van, thank you so much for making the time to be with us.
Oh, you're
Appreciate you
welcome.
escaping from those patients and being here
Oh,
with us. Rebels, if you have any questions for Dr. Van, please feel free to ask them. If not, your website is again
True North Concierge Medicine.
True North Concierge Medicine. We
Yeah.
thank you guys for listening
Oh,
and make
lovely.
sure to stay rebellious. We'll see you next time.
Did you enjoy the conversation? Like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Want to redefine your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind? Check out our website at rebellious-studio.com.